In Hebrew, we call it a bris. In English, we call it a circumcision. In this week's Parsha, Lech Lecha, Genesis chapter 17, we read how God appears to Abraham and instructs him to circumcise himself and all the males of his household. God further commands Avraham that from now on, every newborn male should be circumcised on the 8th day of his life as a sign of the eternal covenant between God and the seed of Abraham. When paying attention, we see that the word bris doesn't actually mean to cut or to circumcise. It actually means a covenant. After giving him the mitzvah of bris, God then informs Avraham that in 1 year's time, he and Sarah will have a son whom they would name Yitzchak. At the time of hearing this news, Abraham was 99 and Sarah was 10 years younger. They had been married for 75 years and Sarah could not conceive. She was physically incapable of having children. Abraham already had a son, Yishmael, who was 13 years old at the time God gave Avraham the mitzvah of bris. In a loving gesture, we read how it was Sarah who urged Abraham to marry her maidservant Hagar so that he could father a child through her. Now, 13 years later, with a healthy and strong young son, when God promises Abraham of a new son that will be born to Sarah and him, Abraham proclaims, Lu Yishmael yichye lefanecha. If only Yishmael would live before you. If you've ever heard the Yiddish expression halavai, it comes from here, the word lu. He seems to be saying that he would be perfectly happy to see Yishmael as his heir, as the one who would continue his life's work and perpetuate his special relationship with God. But God rejects Abraham's proposal. He reassures him that Yishmael will become a great people. But my covenant I shall establish with Isaac. Only Isaac, the son you will have with Sarah, can be your true heir. And only Isaac can father the people with whom I will enter into a covenant as my mamleches kohanim v'goy kodesh, kingdom of priests and holy nation. And the simple question we have is why? Why did God need Yitzchak? What wasn't good enough with Yishmael? The answer to this question goes to the heart of what this covenant between God and the Jewish people is all about. You see, this was much more than a technical choice. God insists on Isaac as the progenitor of his chosen people, for God is educating Abraham and us something very fundamental about the nature of our relationship with him. Yishmael and Isaac differed in two significant respects. Number one, the nature of their births. Yishmael was born through natural means. His mother Hagar was young and fertile. In contrast, Yitzchak's birth was a supernatural event. Sarah, his mother, was physically incapable of having children, making Isaac's birth a miracle. And number two, their entry into the covenant. Yishmael was circumcised at the age of 13, fully aware of the physical and spiritual significance of the bris. He was a young man with a developed understanding. Isaac, however, entered into the covenant of circumcision as an 8-day-old infant, completely unaware of the event and its spiritual implications. These differences highlight two types of relationships with God. Yishmael represents a rational relationship, one based on human nature and understanding. Yitzchak, Isaac, on the other hand, embodies a supernatural, supra-rational bond with God. Abraham saw many positive qualities in Yishmael and was ready, even eager, to see him as his heir. Yet God insisted that the covenant with Abraham be perpetuated specifically through Isaac and his descendants. This choice underscores that the Jewish people's commitment to God must transcend the natural and the rational. In choosing Isaac, God was not merely selecting a successor for Abraham. He was establishing a model for the Jewish people's relationship with him, a relationship that goes beyond just logic and reason. It's rooted in complete faith and in the miraculous. As we reflect on this, let us remember and embrace the supernatural bond we all share with God. This goes much further. This goes much further and deeper than a relationship. It's a covenant, a bris, a bond that calls on us to rise above the ordinary and connect with the divine in every aspect of our lives. I wish you a good Shabbos.